used to be down here at the bottom, it's now up the top, and we're going to learn why that becomes a problem. On this optional, they say alcohol in moderation, and then potentially like vitamins, especially vitamin D. And so we can talk a little bit about the vitamin thing too. So our body needs protein. Protein is like the building blocks in our body. That's like what our muscles are made out of, what our bones are made out of. We need protein to build and repair in our body. It provides the basic amino acids for hormones and to allow the neurotransmitters for our brain and our nerves to transmit signals. We need the amino acids, which is the breakdown of the proteins in the body. If we don't have enough protein, our body starts to break down its own protein, its own muscles, and obviously that's going to lead to some problems. So even though there's diets out there that say don't eat any protein, eventually your body needs protein or it will start breaking down its own protein. And when we eventually be forced to go off that diet, when we do, you're going to have a lot less muscle left over at that point in time. If we're not getting enough protein, what happens? Delayed wound healing, so wounds stay longer. We have weak muscles because our body starts to break down its own muscles. The muscles get weaker, and then we have swollen parts in our body. We need the protein to pull down the swelling. So if you know people that have lots of swelling, protein is an important thing. There's good protein, which is, you can see here, this is like fish, which is baked or natural protein, and then we see on this other side is the fried or the burnt protein. Obviously when you burn protein, that's going to cause a problem. It's going to be a carcinogen. So we don't want to fry foods, we don't want to overcook foods. We're looking for more baked and natural foods. Another thing to watch out for with these bad proteins is a lot of additives and preservatives to make them taste good. So as you start to add salts and seasonings and flavor enhancers and preservatives and things that are not natural, things that didn't normally, when you kill a deer, there's not this stuff in there. That's what causes problems. So all the extra flavor enhancers that cause problems. So what else does protein do? It reverses the storage of fats by releasing glycogen. So glycogen is what your body needs to break down in order to have energy. Protein kills hunger, so if we're having trouble at night, we're always hungry and it feels like we need to keep eating and keep eating and keep eating, that might mean that we don't have enough protein. Protein is going to reduce that hunger factor. Reduces glucose levels in the blood, so if we're having trouble with diabetes or having too much blood sugar, protein helps to level that blood sugar off and helps our body so that blood sugar levels don't spike up. Some examples of food that has protein in it: beans, poultry, eggs. Egg whites is the specific part of the egg that has protein. So that's the protein thing. Fat kind of has a negative connotation. We've been sold that we should have a fat-free diet. We don't want to have any fat. Well, fat isn't all bad. We actually need fat in our body for some things. So what does fat do? Well, our brain is made out of fat. The majority of our brain is fat. And so if we don't have any fat, our brain's going to shut down. It's just not going to work. The most important kind of fat is omega-3 fat. We'll learn a little bit more about the omega-3 fat. Everybody taking omega-3s right now? Yep, so a lot of people know about the omega-3 fat. That's the main source for our nerves and our brain. It's in every cell in our body. So in every cell, around the edge of the cell, is fat. What we call a fat bilayer. If the fat's not there, it's not the right kind of fat, our cells become inflammatory. It's a great source of energy. So there's a lot more energy in fat than there is in carbohydrates or in protein. So fat is a great source of energy for our body. If we don't have enough fat, we get dry skin. Probably a common problem this time of year. Neurological problems and depression. So people suffering from depression, one of the primary treatments that they're doing now is they're adding omega-3 fats back into their diet. People that are suffering from postpartum depression, adding omega-3 fat back into their diet. The brain's made out of fat. If we don't have enough fat, the brain stops working right, and depression is one of the potential problems. So, good fat, seeds and nuts. Bad fat, fried fats, things that are overly produced, fast food fats, so vegetable oil fats, that kind of thing. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are important for fiber to help our body, the digestive system, move through correctly. They're a good source of energy, and then it's the main source of energy for our brain. So when our brain runs, even though it's made out of fat, it needs a carbohydrate in order to run. So what is a carbohydrate? We have a good picture of it here. So which ones of these things do you guys think is carbohydrates? Bread, carbohydrates? Yep. Broccoli, carbohydrates? I think there's carbohydrates in there. Lettuce, carbohydrate or not carbohydrate? What do you think? No? Yes, anyone? Yes, there's carbohydrates in lettuce. How about this thing?
Cupcake, yeah.
Cupcake, carbohydrate, yep. Lots of carbohydrates in there. And then how about this one, alcohol? Carbohydrates? Yeah, there's carbs in the alcohol. Beer, lots of carbohydrates. All these things are carbohydrates. So there's a wide majority of different carbohydrates. So we hear about this low-carb diet or no-carb diet. Are carbohydrates in and of themselves bad? No. But there's certain carbohydrates that are good, which is your fruit and vegetables. So if we cut out all the carbohydrates, we're going to have a problem. Very low energy. But if we're eating the wrong kinds of carbohydrates, these very processed carbohydrates, then our body is going to absorb them very rapidly. We get a big spike in our blood sugar, and then we get a big crash in our blood sugar. So carbohydrates, certain kinds are good, certain kinds we may want to limit or avoid completely. Biggest carbohydrate that's going to cause the most problem, sugar. Sugar is a white powdery substance. Think about other white powdery substances and what people do with them and what it causes in the body. This can cause major problems, and so if we're having too much processed sugar, it's going to lead to a lot of problems. One is obesity, 2, type 2 diabetes, 3, heart disease, and then a damaged immune system. So processed sugar, if we could completely eliminate it, it would be a good thing to do. Very, very difficult to do. Processed sugar is very addictive. It absorbs into the body. If you try to have a piece of candy and stop, you feel that craving for another piece of candy very rapidly. So sugar is addictive, believe it or not. It's in a lot of different things. There's a lot more things than we think. If we look at the back of our labels and read the labels, we'll find that sugar is in a lot of things. And it's not just listed as sugar on the label. It might be listed as high fructose corn syrup. If you read ketchup or different kinds of sauces, you'll find that there's sugar in a lot of them. It makes things taste better, which is why they put it in there. It's also a big filler, so you can put less of the regular ingredient in there, more sugar, you get more product, you can sell it for cheaper. Sugar's fairly cheap. It's in a lot of beverages. I'm sure you've seen that on TV with the energy drinks and talking about how much sugar is in a can of pop or in the different energy drinks. So they put a lot of sugar in a lot of different things. The problem with sugar, again, is big insulin spike, big energy spike, and then a big crash. And so as our body's going through these different spikes, we're going to start to lose some energy. So what about the diet stuff or the sugar-free stuff? Anybody think that diet or sugar-free stuff would be healthier? No? Okay. So what's the problem with the sugar-free stuff? Anybody have an idea what would be the problem with sugar-free? Sweetness. Yeah. So, aspirin. Yep, so this is going to be the first thing that we're going to talk about that's going to start to damage our immune system, damage our digestive system. When we start to take away something that's, even though it's not good for us, sugar is not good for us, and we replace it with something else, sugar-free, which would be aspartame, NutraSweet, a lot of the different artificial sweeteners. This stuff is made in a laboratory, not designed to be digested by our body. So the reason why it's sugar-free is because our body can't break it down and take any energy out of it. All it does is it moves through the body, but as this stuff is moving through our body, it has the potential to cause some damage. It's a chemical. So when they first found these artificial sweeteners, anybody heard of the product DDT? You know what it does? What